at the school in Harlem today. She joins me now. I mean, just what a visit. Incredible. And you can see the joy in his face.
He really glows when he's around children and when he's around immigrants and refugees, because some of the adults in the room were also immigrants and refugees, and you can just see that he is just so genuine with them and so kind and generous. Now, I got to tell you a little bit of the backstory there. So those children had arts and crafts that they were sharing with the Pope, but two kids actually were showing him how to use a touch screen, Anderson, and I talked to the kids. And the Pope has been quoted before saying that the internet is a gift of God. So these children said, we taught the Pope how to use a touch screen with the gifts of God. So they had flowers and they would use their finger to, you know, move the flower within the screen. And so I said, okay, you got to be honest with me. Was the Pope good at this? And they said, no, but we helped them. We helped them.
And he also gave some homework, right?
He did. He, you know, spoke off the cuff for a little bit. He's an immigrant. He talked about being an immigrant child and how difficult it might be for children who are... I have a little homework for you. Pass to other people, and he's very humble about it, saying, pray for me so that I can continue doing the work that I'm doing.
One of the things that John Allen was saying was that it's really the happiest he believes he's seen the Pontiff on this entire trip so far.
You can tell from his body language. I mean, I've seen it in multiple countries as we've been following his visits in South America, Cuba, and then here. When he's around politicians, he's a lot more stiff, a lot more serious. But when he's around children, and when he's around the poor, for example, in Quito and Paraguay, you can just see how he's glowing. And one of the priests told me, he said, he always looks at the priest's shoes, because if their shoes are nice and shiny, they have not been in the neighborhoods. They have not been helping people. Yes, yes.
Which is certainly where he wants his pastors to be. And we're going to talk to 3 of the kids who were there at the school today. I'm looking forward to that. Rosa, thank you very much for that. Great day. Those students, there's so many others here in New York. They've had a chance to meet Pope Francis, including this boy at Madison Square Garden, whose father was moved to tears when the Pontiff stopped to give him a blessing. That encounter brings to mind another one from nearly 40 years ago. Take a look at those images. Incredible. In 1979, a little girl also at Madison Square Garden got up close to then Pope John Paul II. Tonight, that girl is now 42 years old and attended Pope Francis's Mass a short time ago in the same location. Imagine that. Jean Cazares spoke with her and her family about that monumental day decades ago.
The little girl in red. In 1979, she captured the heart of the country and Pope John Paul II during his visit to New York City's Madison Square Garden for the youth rally. And from that moment on, the life of the 6-year-old Geraldine Smith was changed forever. It was a difficult time for the family. The children's father, a member of the elite division of the NYPD that guarded the likes of heads of state and New York's Cardinal Cook, had suddenly died the previous year.
It was the night before. I got a call from a member of the police department that they had secured 4 tickets.
That day, Geraldine just happened to wear red and white, the colors of Poland, the Pope's native country. Geraldine's sister, 16 at the time, remembers the energy when they got to Madison Square Garden.
Electrifying, inspirational. Everything about it. They had to try and calm, you know, the crowd down so he could even speak. That's how people were chanting. John Paul, John Paul, John Paul.
The family had seats close to the front. All of a sudden, a man came up to Geraldine's mother.
He asked if she would go down to the railing with him, and I was about to say, I'm sorry, when she had his hand. And she went off.
Now the little girl was very close to Pope John Paul, who was entering the garden in his Pope-mobile.
I did see him wave. I had no idea it was towards me. The guard that had asked me to come down and stand with him was lifting me over the railing. He lifted me up on top of the Pope-mobile, and he had a hold of my lower legs and was kind of rocking to the music with them. There was a light around him. I couldn't take my eyes off of him. His smile was amazing, and his eyes were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen.
Geraldine was taken back to her family as the Mass began.
She was like mesmerized. And then when the rally was over, a number of people came over. They just wanted to touch her.
Geraldine's interaction with the Pope strengthened the family, whose faith had been shaken after their father's death.
I think we all believed that he was there that day, and that in some way he was always going to be with us, and this moment kind of solidified that for us. And it helped us to bond as a family, even without him. And for me personally, this gave me some confidence back that I'm not sure I would have had if not for this moment.
Geraldine received a rosary from the Vatican after that day, as well as letters from people around the world. 17 years later, in 1995, Pope John Paul II came back to New York City. The little girl in red, now all grown up, saw him again.
Guess I learned to appreciate it, more. It really did affect my life.
And in the decades that followed, people continue to remember the little girl in red. Jean Casares, CNN, New York.